what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Cincinnati Bengals outlast the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football. 31-34 in overtime. Bengals were without Joe Burrow. Jake Browning under center, while the Jags in the middle of the second half lost Trevor Lawrence to an ankle sprain. Heisman finalists have been named. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and Marvin Harrison Jr. will be heading to New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation coming up this weekend. And the Blazers return to action tomorrow, facing the Golden State Warriors at home. Potential return for Anthony Simons. Coming up in hour number 3, friend of the program and our basketball analyst, but the basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix, Devon Pouncey, joins us live in studio for the third hour. But a full wrap-up of the NFL week, Florida State conspiracy theories, and transfer portal madness. RCM on a Tuesday starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Tuesday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Tuesday. We are on the third floor. We are very thankful to be on the third floor today because I don't know how the second floor and the first floor are doing. All right, so is atmospheric river just like what we call a good hard rainstorm? Is this just like that what we call it now? Because I feel like everything's got to have like a cool name. Like, oh, it's going to rain really hard for about 3 days. Got it. No. That's an atmospheric river. Oh, okay. What is the other? Bomb cyclones, atmospheric rivers. Okay. Get the galoshes ready and the raincoat. Got it. Ready to go. But it is it's treacherous out there. It is coming down. It is pouring down rain. But regardless, we've got a lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today, as we've been doing throughout the football season, because we are college football obsessed on this program. And we are going to talk some college football on the show today because, well, not a day goes by where we're not going to talk some college football if we can't help it. But Tuesday, we have set aside to talk a good chunk of NFL. We got a Monday Night Football game to talk about. And this is what I was thinking about last night. I've mentioned this with regard to the NBA. I don't know if we all quite comprehend, or maybe we do, but just how good the 12th man on an NBA bench is in terms of how good they are at playing the game of basketball. To be a 12th man on an NBA bench, I think a great example of this before got a little fast and loose with his language on a streaming service, but how many years did we sit here as Blazer fans and say, Myers Leonard sucks. Myers Leonard sucks. He stinks. Why do we give that guy an extension? Myers stinks. And it's like, Myers Leonard is capable of scoring 20-some points in an NBA basketball game. Now, he doesn't do it consistently every night. That's for the elite of the elite. But to say that, like, that guy sucks, it was like, nah, but he can score 17 points in an NBA basketball game. I was thinking about that with Jake Browning last night because, Brendan, you asked me this question yesterday, which was Washington 2023 versus Washington 2016, right? The last great undefeated Washington team. And you said, is this team better? And I'm like, well, yeah, head and shoulders better. Now, the defense in 2016 was one of those all-world defenses, and that ultimately got Jimmy Lake a job. But the offense, run by, at the time, Jonathan Smith, with Jake Browning as his quarterback, was kind of pedestrian, right? It didn't set the world on fire. And we were used to, in the Pac-12, because
I know John Ross is pretty good.
He was pretty good. He's really fast. But the offense, but you look at the scores, you look at the stats, like they didn't light the scoreboard on fire back then. They did kind of what other teams have, like when you have an all-world defense, play conservative, don't turn the ball over, run the ball with Myles Gaskin, right? And Jonathan Smith ran that offense and ultimately got him into the college football playoff. They did obviously put up 70 on Oregon. That was a point that Chris Peterson clearly wanted to make, understood. But for the most part, nobody would look at the 4-year starting career of Jake Browning when he was at Washington and say, that guy's an all-time great. Like nobody would say that. Even amongst Washington standards, like that guy, compiler, game manager, good, not great. Did what you needed to do, but. And some people might even be like, yeah, Jake Brown, like he just benefited from having a great defense. He benefited from having some weapons around him, but was kind of mediocre. Jake Browning just won a Monday Night Football game on the road. Like, you go back to the opinions you thought of a guy like Jake Browning back in 2016. Now, obviously, some of that's clouded amongst rivalry, right? And some of that is clouded amongst what now we know, like Jonathan Smith, kind of a conservative guy when it comes to offense. And you take all of that and you think of all of the opinions you probably had of a guy like Jake Browning. He's been in the NFL the entire time. Yes, as a backup, but he has been in the NFL the entire time. And as a backup quarterback, he went on the road in Jacksonville and got a win on Monday Night Football. And, by the way, dropped 34 points on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are really good. It was just one of those things that popped into my head is like, when we talk about, oh, this guy stinks. Oh, this guy is a mediocre game manager, like Brock Purdy, do you know how good you have to be to keep a job in the NFL? For a guy like Jake Browning, who's just, been in the NFL the entire time. As an Oregon fan, one of the most, I think, embarrassing times for Oregon fans was when they essentially booed Anthony Brown off the field in 2021. 2021, Oregon fans, Anthony Brown, booed him off the field. They started chanting for Ty Thompson, who, by the way, 2 years later, still has not started a game for the Oregon Ducks. 5-star, who knows if he's going to go in the transfer portal. Who knows what the quarterback situation is going to be for the Ducks. But regardless, Oregon fans, not a shameful act, but a pretty embarrassing act, which was booing your starting quarterback and started chanting the name of the freshman. Now, a lot of that chanting came from the student section, and students are stupid.
That was before he had his career game against Oregon State.
He did do that, but
maybe the boos were a bit premature.
But there was a lot, because, he was the guy after COVID, right, that had to follow Justin Herbert, right? It was Tyler Shuck and him, and they would go back and forth in 2020, but it was such a weird year. Shuck ends up transferring. He gets the job. And, by the way, took a team in Oregon to the Horseshoe and beat Ohio State. Like that guy. That guy beat Ohio State. Same guy took a team down to the Rose Bowl and beat, I think, at the time, the number 11 team in the country in UCLA. That guy. But Oregon fans, no, you're not Justin Herbert. You're not Marcus Mariota. You're not lighting up the scoreboard. As it turns out, it wasn't even his fault, because since Anthony Brown has left, Brendan, Google Anthony Brown. What's he up to these days? Probably playing what? Second-tier Arena League, right? By the way that Oregon fans treated him back in 2021.
I believe he's still riding out on the Ravens practice
squad. Still playing for the Baltimore Ravens. Got it. Still, even as a practice squad quarterback, you know how good you have to be? You know how good you have to be to be a practice squad quarter. He gets paid a lot of money to play quarterback in the NFL. Not $50 million, but he gets paid a whole lot of money to be a quarterback in the NFL. And Oregon fans try to boo that guy off the field.
Sometimes fans don't know what they want. There's some history of Oregon State booing their quarterbacks off the field too. So it's I almost wonder if it's an unclassy or uneducated fan, Justin.
Oh, it's always 100% uneducated fan. My point is, you think about like what we thought of Jake Browning. You think about what we think of like Anthony Brown. All those guys, they're still playing football. They're still in the NFL. Maybe it wasn't 100% on them. Maybe it was a little bit of a coach getting conservative with the play calling. Maybe it was a bad matchup. I don't know. But I'm watching Monday Night Football last night, and a guy that if you would have asked me, hey, what's Jake Browning's legacy at Washington? Right guy, right time. Compiler, game manager. Yeah, he just took a Cincinnati Bengals team as a backup to Jacksonville on the road on Monday Night Football. Went toe-to-toe with one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. Walked out with a win. Like, it's amazing how we forget how good, just to be able to start and win in Division I college football, how good you have to be. And we sit there like, oh, this guy stinks. This guy's mediocre. It's like, you have to be so good.
Yeah, I mean, wholeheartedly. I mean, you look at Jake Browning, and maybe it's something in the water, Justin. Maybe them Husky guys are just rolling.
Oh, they are dancing this week. Oh my goodness gracious!
Like it's a good week to be a Husky. Let me tell you.
Oh, I am well aware.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a dog. But no, I mean, going back to Jake Browning, what he did, absolutely impressive. Like Justin said, not any guy that when he graduated, because he played 4 years at Washington, was like, this is not Bo Nix, Drake May. Like, I think Browning went as an undrafted free agent. I don't even think he was drafted. But to use the cliche answer, Justin, is this like just Cincinnati being smart, being like, we're going to gamble and have the guy behind Joe Burrow, because we paid Joe Burrow an arm and a leg, be somebody who is a proven winner who we know understands our offense? Is this as simple as like Pete Carroll to Geno Smith? Like, if you know and believe in anybody just to execute the basics of your offense, can you still win? And I think we saw last night, you can.
Here's the thing. You look at what's going on with Brock Purdy right now. What's going on with Brock Purdy, and it's like, oh, they just went into Philadelphia and manhandled the Eagles. Manhandled the Eagles. And Brock Purdy, now that he's got his left tackle back, and he's got Deebo Samuel back, which
weird. He has more talent. He plays better.
I know that Christian McCaffrey is going to get a lot of the shine, and he should. And George Kittle Deebo is the straw that stirs the drink on that team. I'm sorry. He just is. That guy is so versatile, and he is so good. But the point is, go back to Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy versus Trey Lance. How many college starts did Brock Purdy have? I'm going to guess about like 48. We could have researched this before we started the segment, but
don't worry, that's why you got the best producer in radio.
Google how many college starts did Brock Purdy have?
46.
Boom. Still got it. 46 starts.
Compared to Trey Lance, is like 3?
That's what I'm saying.
Let me look.
I want to say it's single digits. Trey Lance starts in college.
It is 17. He did play 3 years, technically.
46 to 17.
It's a lot.
That's what we're talking about.
It's a chasm.
And now you look at what's going to go on with Bo Nix and what's going to go on with Michael Penix. And those dudes is like, Bo Nix started like 50-some games. And yes, Caleb Williams is electric. Caleb Williams is dynamic. The plays that he made at Autzen Stadium this year, a couple of weeks ago, still I'm like, whoa, you don't see guys make those plays. But once you get past the electric and dynamic guys, the guys that have just played a lot of football, like Jake Browning, who's I'm sure he's got like 45 starts somewhere in his career, because I know he started as a true freshman. He's got like 40-some starts. Michael Penix got 40-some starts. Bo Nix got like 50-some starts.
Browning was 54.
54 starts in college football.
13 or 14 games all 4 years.
Yeah, you think he knows a little thing or two about football. He played so much of it. I don't know. It was just something I was thinking about last night, and I thought to share it all with you. Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. Even though it is rainy, and we are going to have you all get off my lawn, and it will be a grumpy old man Tuesday, but we are going to have Devon Pouncey on the show coming up in hour number 3. We're going to talk a ton of NBA, talk a ton of hoops. Excited to get Pounce back on the big show. But coming up next, take a look at the entire NFL slate. Take a look back at the week that was. Some of the storylines that are emerging. Are there new teams that are popping up into maybe the Super Bowl tier? Are there other teams that we're like, this team might be able to win a Super Bowl? And are there teams falling out? It is a fluid system. We do that next. 620 Rip City Radio. So Week 13 in the NFL wrapped up last night on Monday Night Football. Saw the Cincinnati Bengals and Jake Browning gut out a victory in overtime against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But clearly the big story in that game, which I believe is now kind of becoming the story of the season. The story of the season in the NFL is, why are all these quarterbacks getting hurt? What on earth is going on? Is this just a string of bad luck? Is this just kind of one of those seasons? When you look at kind of the landscape of the NFL, it is just riddled with quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks, getting hurt. And now you can add Trevor Lawrence to that mix. Now, it turns out that he may just have an ankle sprain. But now the degrees to which the ankle is sprained and how much time it's going to take to come back and all that stuff. But you throw him now on the list of other guys, right? Help me out here, Brendan. So you got
Kirk Cousins,
Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow. Like, those are four pretty good ones right there.
Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, pretty much all season long.
Kenny Pickett just had surgery. I know he's not an elite quarterback. Hopefully he's a good quarterback.
Anthony Richardson after 2 games.
Anthony Richardson was done for the Colts.
I mean,
Minshew Mania's come in though, and he's right at the ship. They're 7-5.
Hey,
they're 7-5 with old Minshew Mania.
Never bet against a leech quarterback, I guess.
Is that all right? I've talked about this before. Is that one of the greatest football stories? Think about this. Gardner Minshew was a quarterback at East Carolina. He had no NFL prospects. None whatsoever. Zero, zilch, none, nada.
Dude was going to be selling insurance. Let's not kid ourselves.
No, here's what he was looking to do. He was looking to grad transfer to Alabama. Not to play football, but he wanted to be there as like a 4th-string quarterback so that he could get into the coaching world. That was his plan. Gardner Minshew said, like, I was done playing. I had a 5th year because I had the grad transfer rule, and I was looking to go to Alabama so that I could learn under Nick Saban and so that I could become a coach. And now, if you know the life of a college football coach, sometimes like Jonathan Smith or like Dan Lanning, you grind it out and you get the right opportunity, and boom, it can be a big-time payday. A lot of times, you're just grinding it out. You're working for good money. Don't get me wrong, you can raise a family on it, but it's for the time you have to recruit and game plan and everything else. The life of a lower-tiered college football coach, even at the highest level, not that glamorous. Not that glamorous of a life, but that was what Gardner Minshew was trying to do. And he was going to be headed to Alabama to learn how to be a coach and, maybe coach, offensive coordinator at some group of 5 school, who knows. And tragically and sadly, Washington State's quarterback, Helinski, took his own life. And Washington State was obviously in a terrible place emotionally, and they were without a quarterback. And Mike Leach, through the world of football, called him up and said, hey, come play for us, lead the nation in rush in passing. And he did. And so he goes to the Cougs for 1 season, revitalizes a community that was dealing with a tragedy.
Man, yeah, I forgot about
dealing with a tragedy. Gardner Minshew, and I've talked to people there at Washington State, they're like, we needed him. It's a very close-knit community, the Cougs. They love each other, and their quarterback took his own life, and they're like, what is going on? And it's like Minshew came in. Game day came there for the first time when they played Oregon. That's that video you see of of Gardner Minshew putting the mustache sticker on Mike Leach. That was after they beat Oregon. And now ultimately they did not win the conference. They would lose to Washington in the Apple Cup, but Minshew clearly had a season, gets drafted, and has now spent, the better part of 7 years in the NFL. Now he's a starting quarterback for the Colts. Talk about a life-changing, life-transitioning butterfly effect moment. Washington State was in a dark place. Needed a guy. Here comes this long-haired kid from East Carolina wearing jorts and, mesh T-shirts with a stash, and is like, yep, he's still in the NFL. And he's got the Colts at 7-5. Like, look, it's December. You have a winning record in December, you got something figured out. So, all that being said, let's talk some tiers. Let's do, as we sit on December 5th through week 13 in the NFL, teams that I believe can win the Super Bowl. AFC. I believe the Miami Dolphins are the best team in the AFC. There is a case to be made for the Baltimore Ravens. And there is still a case to be made for the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see what happens with Trevor Lawrence's ankle. And again, this is why the NFL is fascinating. One play can change an entire narrative. Because if Trevor Lawrence doesn't get hurt and they win that game, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are 9-3 instead of 8-4, and you want to come in on sports radio and have a hot take on a Tuesday, say, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars might be the best team in the AFC. You're like, they might be. But Kansas City, Jacksonville, Baltimore, Miami, the 4 division leaders, I don't know, they're like, the Colts are going to make the playoffs, I believe. I don't know about the Bills. Steelers, probably, we'll see, but I don't have any faith in old Mitchie Mitch.
I think the Bills are going to get it figured out.
The Bills are going to figure.
We've been
waiting for him to get it figured out all year.
Well, there was one game after they fired their offensive coordinator, and the threshold for just making it in as a wild card team.
That's true.
I think they can still, even with the Texans who are racing up. I still think they have a pretty good shot to make the playoffs, Justin. But you never know, right?
So, because as we sit right now in the mix, right? Steelers, Browns, Colts, Texans, Broncos, Bengals now 6-6, Buffalo at 6-6. That's going to be an interesting race to mediocrity.
I don't expect Jake Browning's great, but I don't think Jake Browning is going to, go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen or even C.J. Stroud.
But here's the thing about Jake Browning is, other than the Baltimore Ravens, the division games that Jake Browning is going to be playing is going to be against nothing but backups, because the Steelers are going to have Mitch Trubisky as their quarterback and DTR in Cleveland. You know what I mean?
Chiefs. They got to play the Chiefs.
They still got to play the Chiefs.
But you're right. 4 backups.
It's
possible.
If you look at...
And this Cincinnati team started 0-3, by the way.
So, of their remaining schedule, they play against Gardner Minshew, backup. They play against Josh Dobbs and the Minnesota Vikings, backup. Mitch Trubisky, backup. The only starting quarterback he's going to be playing is Patrick Mahomes. Now, that's New Year's Eve. Who knows what's going to be going on with the Chiefs and the playoffs, and maybe they rest Mahomes. I don't know. But will Jake Browning take the Bengals to the playoffs? How nuts is that? Is there, all right, anybody in the NFC? Eagles, Cowboys, Lions. I believe the Lions can win the Super Bowl. I do. I know that that's still Jared Goff over there. And Jared Goff played quarterback in a Super Bowl. People forget that. They're like, oh, yeah, I know they're good, but do you trust Jared Goff? It's like, Jared Goff played in a Super Bowl.
He was just playing against the GOAT.
And it was one of the worst Super Bowls of all time. That was such a boring Super Bowl.
It was.
Oh, my goodness
Still counts
gracious.
all the same, baby.
Still counts. The ring, yes, the ring still is there in the case. Banner still flies. That was terrible Super Bowl.
That was the last Patriots one, too. So it makes you wonder if, Justin, watch the Patriots go 30 years or something without winning a Super Bowl now, and they'll be like, the last one was the worst Super Bowl. Because objectively, I agree with Justin. It was a horrible game.
Terrible game. So, all right. So, NFC teams that could win the Super Bowl: Eagles, Cowboys, Lions, nobody in the NFC South, and the 49ers. I think that's the list right now. I don't see anybody. Now, maybe, like, the Rams could get healthy. Who knows? But those are the teams that I'm seeing. Teams that could potentially make the playoffs. This is where I think there are some teams that got to make some decisions, right? Are the New England Patriots even interested in winning football? You mentioned
Probably not.
You mentioned that Super Bowl. All right, let's talk legacy real quick because it is known. Bill Belichick, greatest football coach of all time. I got college football in the brain still. But right? Wasn't that 2 years ago? Greatest. Quit saying college football, Myers.
Four. Because they have not won a Super Bowl.
But I'm just saying the narrative of the football world 2 years ago. Who's the greatest coach of all time? Bill Belichick. I mean, it's Bill Belichick. Look at the rings. All right. But at some point, if Bill Belichick, in the bread of the Tom Brady sandwich, right, which is his time in Cleveland, and with Nick Saban as his defensive coordinator, his time in Cleveland, and his time in New England post-Brady, if that's the bread, like, that is the most delicious sandwich ever on the worst bread. With the Tom Brady run in the middle.
Yeah, they have not won.
If they end up getting the number one pick, now, somehow, someway in the NBA, Greg Popovich has managed to kind of slide past that. Oh, Greg Popovich, greatest basketball coach of all time. I was like, yeah, he also had some of the worst teams of all time as well. He also, when he doesn't have Tim Duncan and Kawhi Leonard, like, weird. Greg Popovich, not such a great coach, is he? If they end up getting the number one pick, and Belichick and the Patriots, I believe at that point, part ways. I believe they part ways. Like, what do we say in like 5 years? What do we say in 5 years? Because you can't deny the success.
Yeah, he needs
It's probably, as everything else, it's a match made, like, Brady needed Belichick. Belichick needed Brady. Neither one were going to be as great without the other. But who needed whom more? I think we're seeing what's going on.
Yeah, no, I think Belichick needs a quarterback, and that's why I think that, like, I know it got thrown out there, and it's been kind of a wow, that'll never happen. But say the Patriots trade him to the Chargers, right? Brandon Staley is not going to have a job next season. Like, they would need to do something pretty incredible, I think, for him.
What's going on there? What happened there?
How do you misuse Justin Herbert and all those weapons offensive? Like, yes, anyway, sorry. I've been calling for Staley for multiple years. It should be Sean Payton there right now.
It looked as though there were some hiccups along the way, but it looked as though the Chargers were going in the right direction, right? They fired Anthony Lynn, Herbie's rookie year. Then Staley comes in, and they were that kind of debacle in Vegas, right? Because remember, all they had to do was play for a tie. If they tied with the Raiders 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe it was 3 years ago. If they tied with the Raiders, they both got in to the playoffs, and the Steelers got popped out. But Staley got cute, remember, and called a timeout. And so the Raiders were like, all right, you want to call a timeout? 2 more plays, boom, boom, that's field goal range. We kick the field goal, we eliminate you, and the Steelers backdoored their way into the playoffs. But still, that was progress for Brandon Staley.
Right.
And you're like, all right, that's not the best way to end the season, but at least you were right there. Lesson learned. Let's take a tie when a tie is available. Playoffs in the NFL. You don't look that gift horse in the mouth. So then the next year comes along, and they make the playoffs. They got Herbert. He's playing like tons of yards, figuring it out. They got a 28-point lead. 28-point lead to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Herbert didn't play a lick of defense in that game, and also he didn't drop any passes that ultimately got intercepted. But then they blow a 28-point lead. Now, so the debacle with the Raiders and the blown playoff game last year, no fun. But if you're looking at it math-wise, that's no playoffs to playoffs. That's right direction. They're 5-7. They can barely score against the Patriots. What's going on? They hired Kellen Moore, right?
Well,
What's going on there?
From what I've heard, Kellen Moore is some reports that Kellen Moore, Justin, apparently could have his foot out the door, and apparently it might not be Brian Harsin going back to Boise State. Oh no!
No, they just took the interim tag off their guy.
Oh,
he
did
just
they?
got hired. Yeah.
Okay, so that's news to me in the last 12 hours.
Yeah, so you've been in a whirlwind of Oregon State transfer portal things.
Yeah,
I don't expect you to keep up on the Boise State, and it's not.
But no,
I just popped up on my X
That's
app.
fair. So that's interesting because I had heard that Kellen Moore was angling for that job to go home. But Justin,
You don't want that job, do you? If you're Kellen Moore, you'd be an offensive coordinator in the NFL, maybe an NFL head coach. You want to go back to Boise?
just knowing that like his family is from Prosser, right,
Yeah.
and the fact that
They got planes.
yeah,
He's kinda
you
rich.
never know what a person's interest is. Maybe he's like, I want to chase the college game. Maybe he doesn't. Who knows?
It is interesting because I am a guy that I love where I am from. Talk about it glowingly. Shout out to Winston, Wildlife Safari, Cayenne the cheetah. But I have no interest in ever going back there and living. You know what I mean? So it's like so in my head, the idea of like, oh, maybe he wants to go back home. Why would you want to do that? You live in Los Angeles. You make like over $1 million a year. You might be an NFL head coach one day.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, again.
I want to go coach on blue turf.
Yeah, like again, we all know Kellen Moore is a small town guy. I mean, maybe the bright lights and this isn't. I'm purely speculating, but I did hear that he was interested in it, so leave that be. But Justin, Herbert started 61 games in his NFL regular season. Do you want to take a gander? What is overall?
Well, he's like almost exactly 500, right?
30-31.
Boom. Yeah.
I'm sorry, and 3 of those years are Brandon Staley. That's 9-8, 10-7, and then 5-7 this year. That's not good enough. They've made excuses for him time and time again.
For the first couple of years, though, it looked like I said, they were in it till the last weekend. All right, learn your lesson, take that tie. All right, hey, 28-point lead, maybe let's sit on the ball a little bit. Let's run some clock out. We're on the road with a 4-touchdown lead.
Hey, Kyle Shanahan doesn't even know that either, so it's hard. It's hard.
Here's the thing about the NFL, too, right? It is such a math game. That's what Tom Brady's brilliance was other than decision-making, right, and competitiveness, Tom Brady's brilliance, I will say, if the kids ever ask me, like, hey, Uncle Justin, you were around during that Tom Brady. What was he? He was really good at math because he had it in his head. I need X amount of time to score X amount of touchdowns. That Super Bowl is like, yeah, no, we're not out of it. I need this much time and this many points. I can get that, but 2-point conversion and we're back. And it's like, and then he would go out and do it. All right, other things of note. So anyway, my point was on the Patriots, that all being said, before I got distracted by the Chargers, you want to hear my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory on the Patriots? I think Robert Kraft is done with Bill Belichick. I think Bill Belichick is done with the New England Patriots. I think there was a backroom discussion saying, look, Bill, we need a franchise quarterback, and we believe Caleb Williams is going to be it. Or Drake May or whoever else they can go out and get at number 1 or number 2 because Carolina is still a factor. But with the Chicago Bears having that pick and the whole Bears thing, but the Patriots could find a way to move themselves up to the number 1 pick. And I believe Robert Kraft is like, we need Caleb Williams. You do not want to coach a rookie quarterback. Bill, you don't want to do it. You don't want to develop a guy along. You do not want to start over. So can you do us this favor? Can you stink for the rest of this season? Because they almost look like they are trying to lose. Like they scored 0 points. Now, and they missed a couple field goals, but like they almost look like they are trying to lose. Here, conspiracy theory is that I believe that the Patriots went to Belichick, like, hey, next year, we'll find you a spot where you want to go. Maybe you do a year of TV, who knows, but let's just break up at the end of the season. But can you do us a solid? We'll pay you. And we'll say mutual parting, not going to fire you, but can you just lose all these games the rest of the way? That'd be great. That's my conspiracy theory. Probably not the way it went down, but in my head, I'm like,
2 quick notes on that. Not a chance in bleep Bill Belichick is ever a commentator. Not the guy who talks like this.
I think he would be fantastic on TV.
That will agree to disagree
I think
on.
he'd be fantastic.
Number 2, Justin, I'm with you because, in my opinion, knowing Caleb Williams and everything that I've said about him, Caleb Williams has to go to an organization that will prop him up to be more important than everybody else. The Patriot way is not that way under Bill Belichick. So Bill Belichick cannot coach Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams needs to go to a place where they sit there and bow to him on the way into the locker room. You know what I'm being dramatic, but you know what I mean.
And Caleb Williams is not the first guy to kind of have that attitude coming out of college, and a lot of those guys learn real quick. Like NFL, that's not for long, right? That attitude, you're not for long in this league if you come in with that, because that shield, ain't nobody bigger than that thing. Except for maybe Patrick Mahomes, because you hit him in bounds anymore without getting a 15-yard penalty. We may talk about that a little bit later as well. But we've got on campus, we got to wrap up hour number 1. Florida State conspiracy theory. I've got one. I'm on conspiracy theories today. FSU conspiracy theory. That's next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, I said my piece yesterday on the College Football Playoff Committee, massively fumbling the Florida State thing, massively fumbling it. System was broken from the beginning. Maybe it's not even the committee's fault. It was the system's fault. It was all of our fault as fans. But the whole thing is a complete disaster, and you will never be able to convince me otherwise. A team went undefeated. They should have a chance to play for a championship. If you, in fact, call it a championship, it is not a championship. It's not. It is it's a popularity contest. It's a vote, right? It's about, what about the TV ratings? What about the point spreads and all that stuff? Yeah. No, it's about a championship. Florida State earned their way for a chance to play for it. Who cares if they get beat by 60? Like, that's the other part of this whole thing. Like, look at what happened with TCU last year. It's like, I watched plenty of Super Bowls where teams got blown off the field. I watched the San Francisco 49ers blow the doors off of both the Denver Broncos and then the San Diego Chargers. Did they think about changing the way we do the Super Bowl? No. Blowouts happen. I've seen 4-game sweeps in the NBA Finals. I've seen 4-game sweeps in the World Series, right? It happens. But you win all your games as a Power 5 team, you should have the opportunity to play for a championship. But instead, it's not a championship. It is made for TV, right? It's what it is. They just took the old existing bowl system, the thing that we were trying to fix, and recreated it. This is bundling. This is the college football version of bundling streaming. Oh, streaming bundle. You mean cable? Live podcast. You mean radio? Like, this is what college football has done. It's like, no, this is a playoff. It's like, yeah, no, you just recreated the bowl system. You voted between 12 members or 16 members. You voted and just created a new Rose Bowl is what you've done. But regardless, what everybody say? Oh, the 12-team playoff is going to fix it next year. Oh, the 12-team playoff is going to fix it next year. Well, I got a Florida State conspiracy theory, and I'm going to throw it out. And it's a topic that I think is near and dear to Brendan's heart. I'm fascinated to hear what he thinks about it. Let's go on campus. All right, so look, the arguments are never going to stop because that's what we do in college football. And the arguments are going to go to number 13, number 14, right? And teams that have 2 or 3 losses, are they better than a 1 loss in a mediocre conference? All that stuff. Those arguments are going to continue, and you might think, well, those are going to be very less consequential. Maybe, maybe not, but there's still a lot of money to be made by making a playoff. Pretty clear that if Jordan Travis was healthy, Florida State's playing in the playoff. Right? We can say that without, there is no argument there that if Jordan Travis, even if they beat Florida and Louisville the exact same way, but Jordan Travis was playing, they would be in. We also know there is no mandatory injury reporting in college football. That doesn't exist. You don't have to. Brendan, what would have happened, live with me in this world, if Jordan Travis's injury was not as gruesome as it was, because we all saw him get carted off, and Florida State then just lied about it? We've seen teams that have had season-ending injuries to players, Luke Musgrave, who have lied about it and said they are day-to-day. What if instead of the gruesome injury, let's say he went down, tore his ACL, was done for the year, he knew it, the team knew it, the doctors knew it, but Florida State said, he might be coming back. We don't know. He might be coming back. He could be. He's got a knee sprain. If you are a team and you are on the bubble of making a playoff next year and you got a significant player injured, I ain't telling anybody. Keep your mouths shut. I don't care if his knee is hanging on by a ligament. Like, nope, sprain, might be back. We're day to day. You know what I mean?
My takeaway from that, Justin, is Mike Norvell is not as good of a liar as Jonathan Smith is.
Well, also, I think we all saw the broken leg. Like, well, yeah, we all kind of saw it.
Be that as it may.
It was a tough visual to say, like, no, it's just a cramp. Remember when Dak Prescott jacked up his ankle?
Oh, yeah.
And Tony Romo was saying, maybe it's just a cramp. And it's like, no, his foot's facing the wrong way, Tony.
Yeah, no.
So it's a little tough to tell everybody. But see what I'm saying, though? Like, if you look at it right now, I would lie about they do anyways, but I'd lie about every injury. No, it's just a little sprain, might be back. We'll see. We'll test it out. Utah did it with Cam Rising. Cam Rising was at Pac-12 Media Day saying, yeah, I'm planning on playing. He's like, yeah, no, you are not. I mean, yeah, maybe he meant 2024. Maybe that's what he meant.
I mean, that was a little trickier because you learned that it wasn't Utah that wouldn't clear him. It was an independent doctor that would not clear him, and that's why Kyle Whittingham and others were frustrated. But
you see what I'm saying? Like, if I got a significant player with a significant injury, mum is the word.
Just go to Jonathan Smith's School of Lying. It's
Chip Kelly went there, too.
Yeah, Chip Kelly, too.
Mike Bellotti was pretty good at it.
But, yeah. I mean,
Dennis Dixon's knee, how is it? It's a sprain. It's a sprain? Got it. Torn ACL. I will never forget, of all the things in my career, Brendan, one of the things that will stick out, and I love Mike Bellotti. Mike Bellotti was very kind to me, and I love Mike Bellotti. Favorite Mike Bellotti line of all time, and we'll end on this? Well, technically, a torn ACL is a sprain. All right. Got you, Coach. Hour number 2, the Big Three, next, 620 Rip City Radio.
what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Cincinnati Bengals outlasted Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football, 34-31 in overtime. The Bengals were without Joe Burrow, whom they lost for the season. Jake Browning under center goes into Jacksonville with a big win. The Jags took not only the loss in the game, but potentially a big loss as Trevor Lawrence left with an ankle sprain. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and Marvin Harrison Jr. are going to be heading to New York this weekend. They were announced as the 4 Heisman Trophy finalists. And the Blazers return to action tomorrow. They'll be facing the Golden State Warriors at Moda Center. Anthony Simons potentially could make his return for the Blazers. We're going to talk some hoops in hour number 3 with Devon Pouncey, basketball analyst for your Rip City Remix. He'll be live in studio for the entire third hour. But the big 3 in hour number 2, it starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, 20 minutes from now, we have got a make or miss. 40 minutes from now, you will all get off my lawn, as it is a Grumpy Old Man Tuesday. And theme throughout the month of December, holiday gripes. I got some holiday gripes. We went after candy canes last week. Or no, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago we went after candy canes. Last week I was on my deathbed during that was my grumpy old man. I do not like the flu. It is the worst, and please never bring that into my life ever again. But you will all get off my lawn coming. I mentioned in the update, Heisman Trophy finalists. Congratulations to Bo Nix. It stinks the way it all kind of ended there in Las Vegas, right? And Bo Nix didn't play horrible in the game against Washington, but wasn't the superstar status that we have seen all season long for the Oregon Ducks. But didn't play horrible. Got outplayed considerably by Michael Penix. Penix, boy, talk about showing up for big games. That's what Michael Penix has done all year. And by the way, appropriately, both of them heading to New York. I was trying to think. I don't think since Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart that the Pac-12 10-8 has actually had 2 guys in the Heisman Trophy discussion. You got one for me? Am I missing one?
Did you say Pac-8 or Pac-10?
I said 12. The entity of the conference.
The entity that no longer exists.
Yeah, that is. We're still playing basketball, though. Arizona's number 1.
And baseball. You know.
Well, we'll get to baseball come, March. But
yeah, can we just skip basketball? We'll skip
But basketball. Who did the Beavs play last night?
Cal Poly.
Double overtime against Cal Poly?
Yeah, I saw a crazy stat, Justin. Oregon State is the first team in the history of college basketball in the 21st century, so that's 23 years, to win a double overtime game without making a three-pointer all game long.
Okay.
So that's,
they didn't make a three-pointer at all yesterday?
Guess that's the Wayne Tinkle mentality this year.
4 passes.
No,
fundamentals.
I don't know. I mean, they can't be any worse than they've been the last couple years, so it looks like they're a little bit better this year, but all that is...
Either way, going back to what you were saying, though.
I think Toby Gearhart and... Was it LaMichael James?
I think they were 2 different seasons. I'm almost positive they were 2 different seasons. I think Toby Gearhart was 2009. LaMichael James was 2010. I think I've got that right. Because
you were Gearhart 09. Okay, let's see here.
Who did Gearhart lose to in 2009?
Mark Ingram.
Was that a Mark Ingram season?
Alabama's first Heisman. Yep, which is crazy to believe that it took all the way to 2009.
Yeah, because LaMichael made it. He was third. He got third in 2010.
And Andrew Luck was second. So there you go.
Andrew Luck was second that year.
In
all
2010.
right.
Yep. And then add in our boy, Kellen Moore at number 4 that year. 2010 was a good year, man.
That was a fun year of college football.
And that guy named Cam Newton came away with the...
Yeah, that I know that you say, and I'm not saying you're wrong. It's up for debate, but the debate of greatest performance in a season by a college football player. Joe Burrow, I got the stats, the wins.
That's my guy.
All of that. Dude, Cam Newton in 2010 was a wagon. Cam Newton in 2010 was unstoppable. Because you look at Auburn before Cam Newton and Auburn after Cam Newton, and it was like, Like, Gene Chizik, who was his head coach, did nothing before. They hired Gene Chizik at Auburn. They booed him off the plane, said, we need a leader, not a loser. Now it's before Yahoos down in Alabama, but he was like, he had a losing record when they hired him.
He did. He got fired at Iowa State.
They hired him to come. He gets Cam Newton, wins the whole thing. 2 years later, gets fired.
As it turns
2
out,
years later, got fired.
As it turns out,
it turns out a little different life without that guy. Maybe go find another one of those guys.
We've talked about this. Some coaches do not have success without coordinators. I think it's safe to say that wasn't Gene Chizik's national championship. That was Gus Malzahn. Because soon as Gene Chizik got that job, he said, we have this Cam Newton guy. I'm going to hire somebody who can run the spread because I don't know anything about the spread offense. I'm a defensive guy. And the rest was history. But real quick, Justin.
Dude, that Gus Malzahn, by the way, we talked about the Gardner Minshew story. Like, the Gus Malzahn story.
Mm-hmm.
He was a high school football coach.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they're like, all right, you want to call plays up here? And then it's like, I got Cam Newton. And then it's...
Let's just look back at those
parlay
numbers.
that into pretty decent coaching career.
Almost 3,000 passing yards, which doesn't seem like a lot by now. But
different time in 2010, yeah.
But 30 touchdowns passing, okay? 1,500 yards on the ground and 20 touchdowns. That's 50 touchdowns.
50 touchdowns.
I don't even know if Joe Burrow had 50 touchdowns.
And Brendan, that's the SEC. This was the heart of SEC LSU versus Alabama. We're going to play 9-6, right? This is...
Okay, Joe Burrow had 60 touchdowns. I digress. I go back to my boy Joey. I'm like...
I don't know, but I'm just saying, Joe Burrow... Okay, can I make...
Yes.
Not that we're relitigating old arguments, but this is what we do. Can you name, other than I can name one offensive player from that Cam Newton team, only because I know that Michael Dyer, his arm was down, and that he should have never been allowed to run for about 40 more yards. I can't name another player. Couldn't name another player on the offense. I know Nick Fairley was on the defensive side of the ball. Couldn't name another. Joe Burrow, yes, Jamar Chase, that's Justin Jefferson. Who else is there? Wasn't there
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
And that guy.
And then a couple starting offensive linemen in the NFL, too.
Now, look, Joe Burrow found the guys and got them the ball, and he got the 60 touchdowns. But
60?
There were so many guys there. There's so many guys to throw to.
This is true.
Anyway, how about we just do this? Both were awesome. That's just not. We don't need to debate it. Both were awesome. But I did want to bring this up. We were talking about this before the show started. So both Michael Penix and Bo Nix are going to be headed to New York. Congratulations to both of them. What a great way to wrap up the Pac-12 with a couple of all-time great performances from both Penix and from Bo Nix, both of whom are tremendous stories. I'm in a story kick today. Well, I was conspiracy theories earlier. Now I'm a bit of a story kick today. Both are great stories. Both at Indiana and at Auburn. And by the way, both there for very different situations. I think if you go back to like Penix's deal, there is something with like he was on his way to Florida State, but the Willie Taggart got hired, and that ultimately led him to get the offer to Indiana. I don't know. It was a whole mess. Like he got to Indiana in a weird way. Tears his ACL twice. Bo Nix, different head coach. Coach throws him under the bus. Injury, inconsistencies because he's a freshman and a sophomore, and that's what happens when you play young quarterbacks. You get inconsistencies. And then both of them end up in the Pacific Northwest. Both of them end up 2 epic games. Unfortunately, Oregon came out the loser in both of them, but 2 epic games. Both will be all-time legends at what is now their new alma maters, which is Oregon and Washington. And both of them are going to be headed into the NFL next year, which 3 years ago 3 years ago, none of you knew who Michael Penix was. Just saying you didn't know. I knew who Bo Nix was, obviously because of what happened on my birthday back in 2019. He ruined it. I've since forgiven Bo Nix for ruining my 40th birthday, but that's okay. That's the reason I knew who Bo Nix was. But could you imagine 2 years ago? Hey, Michael Penix and Bo Nix are both going to be in New York for the Heisman, and both are going to be headed to the NFL. You were like, you've taken crazy pills again. But you mentioned with the Seattle Seahawks, because I believe the Seattle Seahawks need to go find a quarterback. Not first round, not sell the farm, keep Geno Smith around, but I think the Seattle Seahawks need to do what the Green Bay Packers have done, which is we got to get somebody in the wings. You know what I mean? We got to draft somebody. We got to have somebody waiting in the wings. Geno's in his 30s. Good enough to get us to the playoffs. Is he good enough to win a Super Bowl? I don't know, but imagine if we get a guy like Michael Penix or Bo Nix who can sit there for a year and a half, 2 years, like Aaron Rodgers did behind Brett Favre. Now, I'm not saying that Geno Smith is Brett Favre. I'm just saying that's the example of a guy who came in. Now, Aaron Rodgers was the first rounder, and so was Jordan Love. I'm thinking second or third rounder. Take a flyer on Bo Nix or Michael Penix. Now, if I'm Seattle, there's no way I'm taking Michael Penix. And I'll tell you why. Do I believe Penix is going to be good in the NFL? Yeah, I do. That kind of arm and that kind of arm strength, some coach will find a way. But you know what you can't have? Could you imagine if, let's say next year, mid-second round, Seahawks draft Michael Penix? They're like, come on in. The first sign of trouble for Geno Smith, the old station that I worked at, there will be, let's get Penix in there. I don't know if the same thing would be said about Bo Nix if he was sitting there as a backup. But Seattle sports legend Michael Penix with the bow and arrow and all those crazy 12s up there, the moment Geno throws a pick, they're going to start clamoring for backup Michael Penix Jr. You can't draft him. Can't draft him.
See,
can't do it.
I slightly disagree because
right.
I think you could draft the hometown guy, and you're going to then basically endear even more Husky fans that maybe aren't Seahawk fans.
Oh, they're all Seahawk fans up there. They're all nuts.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
maybe.
all nuts 12s up there.
But yeah, I think you could. The thing with Penix that concerns me long term, and I think the reason he's going to be the last quarterback drafted, he's got injury history. He's got AC joints, two torn ACLs, I think, a shoulder injury. This is why he didn't pop his first couple years. Bo Nix, different story, wasn't injury. It was more guys coming in and out. That Gus Malzahn guy that we talked about.
It was more Brian Harsin than Gus Malzahn.
That too. So, I mean, he came to play for Gus Malzahn and then was obviously gone. But the interesting thing with your theory, Justin, and I hate to throw cold water on it, Seahawks do not hold a second-round pick in this year's draft. Pick, so they hold...
Well, you could trade up.
They hold their first-rounder, which right now they're projecting to be in the mid-teens, which, you know...
You think Penix or Nix is around by the third round?
So just a mock draft that we look at right now has Caleb Williams going 1, Drake May going 2, Jaden Daniels going 10. Let's see. This one has Bo Nix and Michael Penix going in the second round.
Yeah.
So
you could trade up.
You could. Maybe you're right, and those guys are second-round grades. You think there's only 3 quarterbacks that are first-rounders? I mean, I think Bo's a first-rounder, everything that I've seen.
The problem is once you get past, like, number 11, most of those teams all have their quarterback. They're not going to waste a first-rounder on a backup.
Do the Broncos start to take a quarterback and move out for us in the future? Ooh. Who?
Broncos might be a spot. Broncos might be a spot. Yeah.
Do the Rams take a quarterback for Stafford's successor?
100%.
Or are they like Stetson Bennett from last year, Justin? Yeah?
Has he even, he hasn't been with the team, though, right?
He's back.
He's back.
He's like their practice squad guy again. So obviously,
I do. If you're the Broncos, you definitely got to take a quarterback.
It's a deep draft.
I mean, all right, real quick. I'm going to fire through it. Let's get to the big 3.
It's time for the 3 most important stories. It's the Big 3 here on RCM.
All right, first thing you need to know, just what we said. Congratulations to Bo Nix and congratulations to Michael Penix as well. Both heading to New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation. Jane Daniels is probably going to... Talked about Pac-12. Jane Daniels, Arizona State. Bo Nix. Now, transfer out, transfer in, but 3 guys with Pac-12 ties all in New York.
Do you think Jaden Daniels said nothing but love, I'm a Sun Devil for life when he left? Just to look at your face when I said that made that comment 100% worth it.
Yeah, I'm Sun Devil for life, except for when I go to LSU and win the Heisman, and then hold that tiger.
You know he said that. There's goodbye post too. You know he said.
Yeah, he did. We might be able to find that. But congratulations, going to New York. Come on, Bo. Come on. If you could just... I wish he would win the Heisman, but he's not going to. Second thing you need to know, maybe some positive injury news for the Blazers. Anthony Simons, reported by friend of the program, Aaron Fentress, that Anthony Simons was a full go at practice and could potentially make his return to the Blazers tomorrow. And finally, third thing you need to know, Monday Night Football. By the way, it was a week for the Huskies, man. They get the win. They're going to the playoff. Penix is going to the Heisman Trophy. Jake Browning wins a Monday Night Football game. I mean, everything's coming up purple this week. Ugh. All right. Here you go. There's the big 3. We got Make or Miss next. 620 Rip City Radio. Hour from now, we're going to have, not even an hour from now, less than an hour from now. Very excited. Devon Pouncey, friend of the program, back in studio for the entire third hour. He is the basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix. We'll get his thoughts on Anthony Simons coming back. Blazers playing pretty good basketball as of late. Overtime loss to Utah. Be nice to get a win, but starting to compete. Got a win against Indiana. Got a couple of nice wins on the road. We'll also get his thoughts on some of the more interesting story. NFL or NBA is about to start to take over the show a little bit because while I love the fact that college football is still going to be in our lives, transfer portal drives me batty. Drives me absolutely batty. Brendan triggered me just a few minutes ago. He knew exactly what he was doing. Some may say that's good producing. Some may say that's just mean-spirited. I don't know. That's just what the people are saying. That's what I'm hearing. But, like, the sports grumpy old man take real quick. If you want to transfer, I support you. If you are a college football player and you're like, look, this isn't for me, I transferred. And I was a junior college baseball player. Went away, didn't like it, got homesick, and I was like, this coach hates me. I don't know who any of these guys are. They changed my position. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I transferred. I support any player, especially football. Especially football if you want to transfer. There's no hard feelings from this fan. Because football is the one sport where there's an expiration date. There is. There's an expiration date. If you play basketball, and I know because I played a little rec league when I was in Eugene, you know who plays in the rec league? A bunch of former college basketball players. They get to play. Football has an expiration date. When you're done playing football, you are done. You don't play anymore. Basketball, you can keep playing. Baseball, you can always find a league. You could turn into slow pitch softball guy if you want to. Golf, obviously, you play golf forever. I mean, friend of the program, Tyson Alger, he plays rec hockey. Like, every sport you play, if you want to continue to play, you can't. Not football. Football, you have an expiration date. So if you want to transfer, and you're just like, look, I'm tired of sitting on this bench. I don't want to sit on this bench anymore. This coach hates me. This isn't what I signed up for. I need to transfer. Absolutely. Don't give me the love letter, though.
Well,
you know what I mean? Don't give me the love letter. We all know it was a hard decision. I don't need to hear about it. Move on, move forward. Now, again, this is Justin being a grumpy old man. These kids live online. The attention that you get from being recruited and then the attention you get from transferring is, I think, a huge factor in why so many guys are transferring. Because you get to put that big love letter up there, and guess what you get? A bunch of likes and a bunch of comments. Go crush it. Go, good for you. Enjoy your rest of your career. I wish you nothing but the best. I wish every player the best. I don't need to hear about it. I don't need your love letter. This has been my TED Talk.
Yeah, a lot of what Justin said, I'm a little bit more vindictive and cynical. Sometimes I do like to see coaches fail or players fail that think that the grass is greener on different situations.
You don't think you give a little bit of grace to like a 19, 20-year-old as opposed to a grown adult? Yeah. That's why I think I give a little bit of grace to the players.
It depends on how you leave, right? Depends on how you leave and why you leave. I mean, again, I've seen a lot of guys come and go from Oregon State in the last, 9 years that I've covered the program. And yeah, I mean, I loved everything that DJ Uiagalelei brought to the Beavers this year, but save me, you're forever a Beaver on Twitter because you're not.
100%. No, that's what I'm saying. I think we're on the same page here. Yeah. Now, I don't wish ill will on anybody. You want to go and find 12 more games to play college football, which is what DJU has got, and you want to find a spot where you feel like you're going to shine and potentially put you into the NFL. Obviously, Oregon State's in a different spot now than when he came in. But, yeah, I'm with you. Don't give me this, I will forever. Like, no, you're not. No. Aiden Childs, best of luck, son. tough break, right? You came in thinking you were going to be a Pac-12 quarterback with Jonathan Smith, and 3 months in, the Pac-12 went away, and then 2 months later, Jonathan Smith went away. Like, that stinks. Understand why you would transfer and leave. But I don't need your love letter.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
No. And
I don't need it. Is it really with a heavy heart? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean.
That's my beef. It's like, just save me the love letter. I know you want all the likes and go crush it, and it feels good. But yeah, transfer. I support you. Pop in your paperwork, get out, and move on with your. It's breakup. Let's break up. Don't tell me how hard it is. Don't give me. This is the college football version of it's not you, it's me. And it's like, well, some of it is me.
I wouldn't doubt that, I don't know. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
You're telling me you didn't actively root for Mario Cristobal to not win games when he went to Miami?
Coaching's different.
Because, I
100% agree with you.
you've never.
I get a little bit bitter about the coaches leaving. Now, it helps that I like Dan Lanning more than I like Mario Cristobal. I just do. You might end up liking Trent Bray more than you like Jonathan Smith. I don't know. Time's going to tell. We'll find out. But I like Dan Lanning more than I like Mario Cristobal. Still stinks.
And that's a beautiful thing about sports, Justin, because out of nothing, like I was having this conversation with my friends, having a team to love and then having a team that you hate is the most fascinating, like the best part about sports. And now that, it's like that's the golden goose that's fallen out of the sky for Oregon State fans is hatred is that now they have a new team to hate on. So you're going to see a lot of Michigan supporters this next year, Justin.
Let's go blue.
You're going to see a lot of Ohio State supporters. You may even see some
Penn State.
That's true. You may
the Land Grant Trophy is what they play for.
You may even see some Oregon State fans sneak into Autzen Stadium midway through the year and go, I would never root for Oregon, but I am now.
But here's my thing. Coaches, right? Coaching is, I think, different. I understand why Mario Cristobal wanted to go home, but you had everything here. Like, I understand why Willie Taggart left for Florida State. I get it, but you had everything here. You had a billionaire benefactor. You know how many teams in the world of college football would give an appendage for a billionaire benefactor like Phil Knight?
A pinky finger.
So the fact you had everything here, and it's like, as opposed to a player, like, other than, was it Kyle McCord? Other than, dude, you just started for Ohio State and you're leaving. That's kind of wild. And other than these quarterbacks who are essentially testing a free agent market that has just been created, if you're a backup running back, you don't know anything to anybody. You know what I mean? Go get your carries. Go play your football. I don't, the players, I do not wish ill will. Because, like I said, there's an expiration date. You can coach forever. It's like when you decide to leave. So, yeah, a little bit more vindictive when it comes to the coaches that decide to walk out the door. And by the way, like we've talked about on this show, and I think Dan Lanning understands this, Chip Kelly, how's he been since Oregon? Been fired twice, nearly fired a third time. Mark Helfrich was shown the door, but since then was fired as offense coordinator of the Bears. Willie Taggart, I believe he's been fired twice. Mario Cristobal, we'll see. Probably not getting fired anytime soon, but he's not in the mix in the ACC anytime soon either. Maybe let's not leave Oregon. I don't know. Maybe let's just not leave. You know what? Maybe let's do? Make or miss.
time.
Well, not all time. I'm talking about you can't go all time, because if you go all time, then like Army is the best job of all time.
Be that as it may, again, Nebraska's still one of the most, almost 1,000 program wins. So that's
okay. What has Nebraska done since they left the Big 12 to the Big 10? That's big zero.
But in 2014, Justin,
big old goose egg of nothing.
When 2014, when he took that job, you could make the claim that was still one of the blue blood again, that's your opinion. Very few Oregon State fans hold that opinion. Almost every Oregon State fan feels that Michigan State is a worse job than when Riley took over for Nebraska. And again, that's why.
Well, I think there's obviously a lot of emotion there, and I like emotion. I like passion. That's why we are able to do what we do. Without emotion and passion, nobody's going to listen to this.
Not just me, though.
Nobody's going to listen to this show. I'm not talking about you. You're on your message boards and in your X world, and I get it. I think it's a little recency bias. Just a little bit.
Again, my colleagues that, I went to school with there and whatnot.
You think it's easier to win at Nebraska than it is to win at Michigan State?
Now, yes.
Really? You think it's easier to win at Nebraska?
I think Matt Rule will be better than Jonathan Smith.
All right.
But then again, I never want to see him win another game ever. So,
If that happened, I would be more than happy to come here and be like, you know what? I got that one wrong.
Both in the Big Ten, both have similar resources. I think Nebraska's even got more money. So I hear what you're saying. But if you're talking like historically, Justin, Michigan State doesn't have a national. See, they even have real national titles that were claimed that weren't.
Michigan. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure. Let me look.
I don't know. But Michigan doesn't have anything since 1997, and that was a long time ago. I know that Michigan State made a college football playoff.
They've got one consensus national championship in 1952.
That was a tough team. That 52 Spartan team.
Man.
but they made the college football playoff.
They did. They have one playoff appearance in 15, 0-1. They did lose to Alabama 38-0.
A lot of teams lost to Alabama back then.
So just going to throw that out there. But no, I mean.
Okay, go now. Okay. Do Nebraska versus Miami 2001. Because if we're gonna talk about getting smoked by the best team in a playoff scenario, what was the final score of that 2001 or 2002?
37-14.
Right.
So it's
similar.
fair. It's fair. It's similar. But yeah, I mean, again, I think that again, just taking it from the Beaver fans that are Justin. Oregon State fans were ready to move off of Riley in 14, so I think that made it easier.
That's a huge part of it, too.
That made it easier.
They were kind of at the point where it's like, all right, it's gotten a little stale. Hip, hip, hooray. It was fun. We're kind of over it right now.
You went and hired Gary Lee Anderson, who was the biggest mistake in the history of Oregon State football, not named Joe Avezzano. But, that's where I think a part of that is. And now,
and the uncertainty of the whole conference thing. And
yes.
It's like Trent Bray walked in and was like,
but then
you walked out on us at the worst time. I'm taking over. So I'm paraphrasing clearly.
We agree wholeheartedly with that, Justin. So then why? And that's where Oregon State fans go, cranking up the middle finger towards Jonathan Smith.
Did you crank that like a chainsaw?
Maybe. Crank up that middle finger. But no, it's just like, then say that. Don't go to Michigan State in your press conference and say, the conference wasn't a major factor.
Yeah, that's a total lie.
Well, he's the best at lying.
That's
what he does. He's a good liar.
I don't know if is he a good liar? He got caught a couple of times. Good liars.
They support his lying at Michigan State. He can hang out with Magic Johnson till the cows come home.
By the way, when did they start doing the crank it like a chainsaw on the third down? That seems to be like a new thing, right? You guys did. You didn't do that when you were in school.
No, we did.
You did?
I remember doing the whole chainsaw when I was growing up. So
really?
But
the hand thing?
Yeah, to an extent. The chainsaw is something I remember.
I remember the sound effect because I hate it.
And the first that's I can't remember a time before that.
That I know.
And then we would kind of do the same.
But the hand crank?
Maybe more recent, but I swear I remember doing that when I was
feels like a
fan student still, too. But regardless, all that to say, let's get to at least one make or miss today. Justin, let's go ahead and go with this one since we had all announced hires yesterday. Trent Bray doubling down on Oregon State alumni is a high-risk, high-reward move.
I don't know if it's a high risk. I think it's what you need at this particular time. You need people that understand the culture. You need people that understand the fan base. And you need people, quite frankly, that love the alma mater and are willing to put in the extra work because it's going to take work for the next couple of years. It's going to take work for the next couple of months. It's transfer portal season, and every coach is poaching, right? They know what's going on. Every coach is out there poaching, trying to get any player they can from both Washington State and Oregon State. You need somebody that loves the university. You got to have it. I think it's the absolute right move. Absolute right move at this. But the last thing you want is anybody from the outside coming in saying like, well, this is how we got to do it. It's like, no, you don't get it. You don't understand it because it is a trying time right now. And so Trent Bray and bringing in alumni, I think absolute. You can't do the whole thing that way, but you got in Ryan Gunderson. You got in, who's the defensive coordinator?
Still to be determined there.
Oh, yeah, I heard some things about your defensive coordinator.
Yeah, nothing yet on DC. Hopefully.
Do we know who's calling defensive plays in the bowl game?
Yes, that was.
Do we know?
Yes.
Is that up in the air?
No, not up in the air anymore. So we talked to the coaches yesterday. The guy who was going to call defensive plays is no longer with the school.
Oh, he's not there anymore.
He was supposed to call defensive plays, see him through the bowl game. As it turns out, he may have been recruiting for Michigan State, and he is now on his way to Michigan State. So, yes, secondary coach will call the plays in the bowl game, Justin, and he is all in.
He's all in.
So
you're darn right.
But do you think
he's all in?
But cutting back the other way, and again, I've just seen
describe this time of year as holly and or jolly. And you know what? There's a lot of things about the holiday season that I very much love. The return of eggnog. Yep, big fan. All right. I kind of crushed the Christmas lights this year. Got a pretty good system. But there are some things about this particular part of the calendar that just get me going. And each and every Tuesday, because we know it is statistically the grumpiest day of the week. And maybe in the month of December, maybe the grumpiest day of the year. Who knows? Probably not. We save those for mostly January and February. But regardless, because you have hunkered down on Monday, and Wednesday you are at the top of the mountain looking down. Thursday, Friday, you are rolling into the weekend. But Tuesday's a tough day to get through, especially sometimes during the holidays when you need to get some stuff done that have nothing to do with buying Christmas presents, and the place you are going to happens to be absolutely packed. That is the theme of today's Get Off My Lawn.
It's time for Justin to get grumpy. Get Off My Lawn on RCM.
Christmas ruined Costco. It did. Christmas has ruined Costco. Look, Costco on the weekends is contact sport anyways, right? Any day of the year, any month of the year, you go to Costco on a weekend, I get it. You'd be lucky to be parking in the third tier, which, again, I'm not opposed to. And by the way, if you have two healthy legs, go park in the back of the parking lot. Don't sit there with your blinker on when somebody's trying to load up 4 cases of water. It's going to be a minute. Go park in the back. You know what I'm saying? And just walk it up there. But regardless, even though I understand you got to hunker down and get to Costco on a weekend, it is going to be a contact sport. It is going to be a to-do. The month of December, Costco is a no-go. It is an absolute, which frustrates your boy because, I have a lot of necessities that I get at Costco. I love Costco, and I am also a man of routine, so much so that when I don't get the stuff that I get at Costco, it throws me completely off. But Costco, Christmas has absolutely ruined it. I don't know when this happened. I don't know when. Maybe when malls started becoming less and less a part of our lives and big box stores started becoming less and less a part of our lives, and Costco's still thriving, and maybe the fact that you can go there and you can get a gift for probably everybody in the family and get a whole bunch of toilet paper, one-stop shop, one fell swoop. But regardless, I hate Costco on Christmas. I am not a fan of Costco on Christmas, and I don't know what it is. Because here's the other thing, and anybody that frequents Costco like myself knows that, while it's going to be packed, it's going to be crowded, most people understand the assignment. You get into the aisle with those big old carts, it is not a grazing situation. You know what I mean? This is not a window shopping situation. Costco is a search and rescue mission. It is, we need to get salt and pepper, we need to get toilet paper, we need to get some coffee pods, and we need to get some protein bars. Now you know what's on my Costco list. Go, hunt, gather, let's get in and out. But you know who shows up at Christmas time in the Costco? The grazers. That's right. The meanderers, the window shoppers without windows, the people who are sitting there going like, would Uncle Kevin like this? I don't know. Does he already have one of these? I don't know. Should we text his wife and see if he already has one of these? It's like, move it along. Find a neutral area to have conversations right in the middle of the aisle with your big old cart is not the place to do it. Yeah, the meanderers, the window shoppers, the grazers, the slow-moving carts, the indecisive shoppers. Oh, boy. I don't know whether it's traffic or whether it's big crowds. Indecisiveness, it drives me crazy. Absolutely gets my goat. Find something, make a decision, and let's get aggressive. And normally at Costco, it's a bunch of like-minded people, unless you're like me and you work early in the morning, and so you go middle of the day, and then you got to deal with some of the blue hairs, which is fine. That's a fine trade-off. So, but if you go into a Costco any other time of the year, the 11 months or the 10 and a half months out of the year that is not Christmas time, everybody understands, look, you got to get aggressive here, all right? We got to be decisive. We don't have time to hem and haw. We have got to laser focus, get in, get the stuff we need, and let's get out. Christmas time, that goes out the window. Because it is a time for indecisiveness. It is a time for, wait, did we get Grandma this last year? No? Okay. Do they already have one of those? Oh, this is a pretty good deal. But is it cheaper on Amazon? And then they're Googling and they're Amazoning right there. Oh, Christmas at Costco? Get off my lawn. Get right off my lawn. I may or may not have had to deal with that on Saturday. May or may not have to deal with that on Saturday because, Brendan, it was my fault. It's my fault. I was out of protein powder and I was out of coffee. And those are two things that your boy cannot live without. Now, am I going to order them all? No. I am get in my car and I drive to the store because I want to hold the physical. Needed coffee, needed some protein powder, needed a couple of other things. Going away on a trip this weekend, needed some snacks, got those snacks. But, I had to battle it out with the indecisive hustle and bustlers of the Christmas time at Costco. So, to all of you, I say, get right off my lawn. All right. There you go. Grumpiness over. Positivity coming because good friend of the program. He is the analyst of the Rip City Remix. He is also the Rip City Mornings basketball analyst. Devon Pouncey joins the show live in studio. Coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio.
now. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Cincinnati outlasts Jacksonville in a Monday night thriller. 34-31 in overtime. Bengals were without Joe Burrow, but Jake Browning under center gets the victory, while the Jaguars not only lost the game, but Trevor Lawrence goes out with an ankle injury as well. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and Marvin Harrison Jr. are all headed to New York this weekend. They are the 4 finalists for the Heisman Trophy. And the Blazers return to action tomorrow. They'll be facing the Golden State Warriors at Moda Center. Anthony Simons' potential return for the Blazers, as it is being reported he was a full go at practice. Hour number 3 of RCM with friend of the program, basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix, but he is the Rip City Mornings basketball analyst, Devon Pouncey, in studio, live, and it starts right now, 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. The most transparent show in Portland is Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers, here on 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, hour number 3 of Rip City Mornings. Very excited once again, as we've been doing this each and every Tuesday that I don't have the flu. Devon Pouncey joins us live.
Or that I don't get stuck in traffic.
Or
Sorry
you
to
get
cut
stuck
you
in
off.
traffic or other factors. But for the most part, each and every Tuesday,
Right.
our good friend Devon Pouncey, analyst for the Rip City Remix, the Portland State Vikings, the Pacific University Boxers.
That's right.
Whoever else you want to throw on the list there, but most importantly, you are the Rip City Mornings basketball analyst.
Facts.
Because I just like throwing out my my weird basketball thoughts, theories, and then you go like, yeah, that's not how it works. But good to see you again, bud.
Good to see you as well. How you feeling?
I'm feeling so much better.
Even after the weekend, I know it was a tough loss. You know, Ducks.
I told
Dogs.
I told Brendan this yesterday that over the years, I have figured out a way to kind of compartmentalize sports. I don't let bad sporting outcomes affect me. I used to.
Yeah.
I used to be a mess.
Sure.
It used to be just, and then it was like at one point the light bulb went off in my brain. It was like, I didn't run any wind sprints in the summer.
Yeah,
I
true.
didn't go through daily doubles. I don't know if they do daily doubles anymore. But
Yeah. Two-a-days or whatever.
I didn't do 2-a-days. I didn't practice all week.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any business getting upset about this because I didn't put in any of the work. The guys on the field, they're the ones that put in the work. But yes, it was a bummer. It's the one thing that kind of stinks about having kind of these classic matchups, right? Oregon and Washington have now played 3 times. They played 3 times between last year and this year. Oregon is 0-3, and the difference in those games was 3 points each and every time.
Yeah, that's tough.
Each and every time.
Under 10 points combined. That's tough.
And like every single one of, like I was at Autzen Stadium last year. It was, I mean, if you were not a fan of Oregon, that was an all-time classic game. It's like Penix kind of coming out party. And then obviously what happened in Seattle this year with the back and forth. And then this year, like it looked like Washington was going to blow their doors off. But yeah, the bummer of the all-time classic game, somebody's got to take an all-time classic L.
Yeah.
And Ducks are 0-3 right now.
They're 0-3 right now in the last couple of years. Yeah, it was a good game though. It was a tough game, and I mean, I just think one team was a little bit more physical than the other.
That was it, right? It was the defensive and offensive line.
Yeah.
The fact that Oregon couldn't run the ball, Washington could.
For sure.
Both quarterbacks played well, but when you can't run the ball, and those big-time matchups,
you get what you got.
You end up losing by 3.
Right.
But I did want to talk some hoops because
Let's do it.
Since you and I have last spoken, you have called it not technically a buzzer beater in the Portland matchup. The Bridge City Classic, is that what we're calling it?
We could call it that.
What?
The Bridge City Classic. I've heard River City Rivalry.
Okay,
I've heard a lot. I call it the Bridgetown Classic. But
there we go.
Yeah, it's been about 5 different names attached to it. So
we just keep throwing them out
poison.
there, see which one ultimately lands. But, Portland State once again, not technically a buzzer beater, but close enough.
Yeah, under a second remaining.
And you have called Portland State games for the last couple of years, and since Coach Coburn has taken over at Portland State, and obviously the greatest introductory press conference of all time.
Absolutely.
Right? He's like, you know what? If it's hot in the summer, I crank the heat up.
Yeah.
I don't eat breakfast, okay? Some say it's important. I don't eat breakfast because I don't want to go to work hungry.
Right.
But, like, Portland State has been in just buzzer beater after buzzer beater, like, to where you've almost got yourself like a buzzer beater catchphrase.
Yeah.
5 like last second or under 3 second game winning shots for like Portland State the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. I've got my little catchphrase. I know how to call buzzer beaters now, which I didn't quite know how to do prior to being able to, call all these buzzer beaters for Portland State these last couple of years. I had a buzzer beater as well at Pacific that I was able to use the same catchphrase for. So thanks, Portland State, because I now have a buzzer beater catchphrase that's kind of been circulating. It's hit ESPN top 10 a couple times. So, but yeah, I talked to Coburn on my podcast last week, the day after the game, and I told him Portland State is the most clutch team in all of college basketball. And that's just the reality of it. I don't know what it is about those late game heroics, but they figure it out time and time and time again. And even in that game, like Portland had a shot to take the lead, go up by 1 with 6.6 seconds remaining. And at that point, Coach Coburn didn't call a timeout. I'm like, yeah, Portland State's about to win this game. Like, this is what they do. This is their identity. He knew better than to call a timeout in that moment because why panic when you've hit 4 prior in the last couple of seasons this time around? And that's exactly what happened. They were able to get down court in 6 seconds and get a layup at the end of the game. Ishmael Habib, shout out to him. He's been playing well this year. Got a left-handed layup at the cup with under a second remaining, and they win again in grand fashion. So, yeah, I think they're the most clutch college basketball team in all of America right now.
All right. Very early, obviously.
Yes.
It's December 5th, incredibly early, but Portland State, they're 6-2. Got to win against Air Force.
Yep.
Got that win against Portland, like we talked about. Got to win against Cal Poly. So got some good wins on
Santa Barbara was a big one as well.
Got to win against Santa Barbara right now. Of the teams in the Big Sky, obviously no conference games quite yet. Those will get going in the new year, but they're 6-2. Have the best overall record of any team in the Big Sky.
It's their best start in the Big Sky era as well.
You think they might be dancing? Portland State's got a shot to go dancing in a couple of months.
I mean, the thing about that is that the Big Sky Conference is a one big conference. It doesn't matter if you go. Last year, Eastern Washington was like they went undefeated for the longest amount of time. I think it was like 17-0 they were. They went 17-0 prior to losing their first game. Obviously, with a record like that, you'd assume like, oh my gosh, regardless of kind of what happens, if they just go on a deep run in a Big Sky Conference tournament, they got a chance at being able to get an at-large bid. Well, it doesn't quite work like that in the Big Sky. You got a one big conference. Whoever is the champion of the conference tournament gets that automatic bid. I will say, though, I think Portland State has as good a chance probably as anybody to be able to get that done this year. They were picked higher in the preseason polls than they have been in quite some time to win, or to at least place in like the top 5, which would ultimately get you a bye game in the first round of the Big Sky Conference tournament. And then you got to win a couple more games to try to seal the deal and be able to get that automatic bid. But it's just really hard to say whether they'll go dancing or not because we know how crazy March gets. We know how crazy conference tournament gets. And the fact that they're a one big conference, it's all about who's able to take home that conference championship title during the conference tournament. That'll determine who will dance.
Do they do you win the conference regular season, you host?
No,
or
it's
do they
in
go to
Boise.
Vegas?
They host.
Go to Boise.
Yeah. So they go down to Boise every year.
Gotcha.
That's where the Big Sky Conference tournament is hosted at every season. So
but you get like
it's
a bye and
yeah. So it's definitely like seedings based. You know what I'm saying? Whoever, based on where you rank in the Big Sky regular season, will determine whether you get the first game bye, and obviously how the rest of the bracket will shake out in terms of who doesn't get the bye, who you'll end up facing in the first round, second round, so on and so forth. So, but it's in Boise every year. So everybody, travels over there and sees who can be that one team bid out of the conference to go dancing.
Another bit of interesting news with your in your Rip City Remix world, Mo Harkless is back.
Yeah.
Mo Harkless. This guy was starting NBA basketball player on a team that made the Western Conference Finals just a handful of years ago, which I think it kind of shows a couple of things. One, just like how tough it is to not only play in the NBA, but to stay in the NBA.
For sure.
And two, what we've talked about over and over again, right? The G League is becoming more than just a developmental league. It's kind of becoming, a place where you can kind of find your way back into the good graces of the NBA. You can kind of show off, because before the G League was ever a thing, right? You get cut, you get kind of lost in the shuffle. It's like you got to go to like CBA, which didn't really even exist. You had to go maybe over to Europe.
For sure.
And so I thought that was interesting that Mo Harkless now back in Portland playing with the Remix.
I mean, obviously it's interesting for him, but as you mentioned, I think at large with the G League, like I've called a game this year with Dwayne Dedman on the opposing team. He's a 10-year NBA vet. But then also on the other end of the spectrum, you have the younger guys who are, the Kobe Browns of the world, who was just a first-round draft pick. In our case, Chris Murray. The G League is like, as you mentioned, it's not like baseball. You got single A, double A, triple A, then you try to get up. Like, the G League is literally like you are right there. It's like it's as if you only had AAA, essentially. And that's what I consider the G League. And I think the stigma around the G League has been not the greatest in the past. And I think a lot of people just aren't as aware that, like, things have changed. And I think part of it has to do with the Ignite. When you're bringing in guys like a Scoot Henderson, when you're bringing in guys like a Jalen Green, who is kind of like the first big lottery pick that decided to do away from going to college and go to the G League, play for the G League Ignite. I think the exposure level is just drastically different because you know that you're playing against guys that are going to be in the league. Where in the past, it was like, maybe I might be playing against a guy on the opposing team that's going to be in the league. But now, like, every night, you know that you're playing against a guy, whether it's a first-round draft pick that's just young and needs the reps to develop, but you know they'll get their chance eventually, or you're playing against NBA veterans. I mean, this year you got the Mexico City team that they're calling the first ever G League super team because they've got Trey Burke. They've got Kenneth Fareed, the Manimal. They got Juan Toscano Anderson, who just won a championship with the Warriors a few years ago. Like, it's just what it is now. It's like, night in and night out, you're going to be playing against a guy that's highly likely to be playing in the NBA, either A, again, or B, in the very near future.
Last couple of weeks, Blazers kind of figured some things out. Also, I think got healthy.
Yeah,
that's always huge. Anthony Simons may potentially be coming back tomorrow. But you look at the way that the Blazers have been playing. Brendan has tried to sell me on this. He's not wrong. I'm just having a tough time accepting it. Is that, when you have a rebuild, which is what the Blazers are right in the middle of right now, wins and losses can't quantify everything.
No.
Right? And I am it's tough for me to kind of accept that.
For sure.
Right? You get into those games, let's find a way to, but you look at, compared to the way that they were playing when they were on an 8-game losing streak, to now the last 5 games, they're 3-2. The 2 losses were a game in Milwaukee they should have had.
Yeah, they were up huge.
They should have had, and again, coulda, shoulda, woulda, but didn't. But you got to, hopefully, young team figure out, learn some lessons.
Yeah, how to close.
And then an overtime loss at Utah, which, again, had some shots on Saturday.
For sure.
Shaden went for 29 against Cleveland, went for 25 against Utah, and kind of slowly but surely kind of becoming that big-time scorer. Scoot's going to have his ups and downs. He's going to deal with his turnovers. But I thought now that the Blazers getting a little healthier, getting a little bit more in depth, and the way that they're playing on defense and the way that they're playing on the boards, I think that's a foundation. We're gonna figure out how to get guys that can shoot.
For sure.
But getting guys to defend, getting guys to grab boards, getting guys to play hard, they got a nice little foundation. I thought as of the last couple of weeks, Blazers not really completely figured it out, but they are not in the depths of the injury and whatever funk they were in about a month ago.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, you got both your point guards back. That helps.
Yeah, also Malcolm Brogdon coming back is humongous.
It's humongous. Malcolm Brogdon coming back is humongous, and still now having Scoot available to relieve Malcolm Brogdon whenever he's not on the floor, because obviously Brogdon is the starter now, and he's the guy. I mean, he's a veteran. He's a legit guy in this league, a Sixth Man of the Year award winner. And I said this on here before weeks back. To me, he is like Chauncey Billups reincarnated in a lot of ways. I think, Billups might have had a little more star power, been a little better. He's a champion, so on and so forth. But they do a lot of things similarly in terms of you taking what the defense gives them. They're very efficient shooting the basketball, shooting free throws. They don't overdo it. They're not crazy athletic. Brogdon doesn't have Scoot's athleticism by any means, but he's such a high cerebral player. He's so smart. He knows how to set the table. He knows how to control pace, which I think is something that Scoot can really learn from Malcolm Brogdon, because while Scoot has all the athleticism in the world, he doesn't really, he's young. He's got to learn the pace and his flow at that level in particular, which I think will come with time. But, being able to have 2 point guards back helps tremendously to be able to kind of get out of that rut and play a little bit more effectively. And as you mentioned, in the last 5 games, be above 500 going 3-2.
All right, when we come back, I want to talk some NBA, just league-wide stuff. There's always kind of a youth movement, but I can see there are some stars emerging in these early months in the NBA that are about to, if not already, pop. One of which you told me about a couple of years ago. Who is that? Well, we'll tell you who that is when we come back on the other side. Devon Pouncey joining us here on Rip City Mornings on 620 Rip City Radio. competitive. And we talked about that last segment. But also, I've been noticing kind of around the league, and this is the part of the year, Pounce, where I go from full-on, locked-in college football, a little smidge of NFL, to like, all right, I got to cram for some NBA stuff. And so I've been kind of paying attention a little bit. I know there is by the way, Devon Pouncey is joining us here live in studio. That's the other voice you hear. He is the basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix, and he joins us each and every Tuesday. I still haven't quite figured out the whole in-season tournament thing. I know like it's going on, and I think the Pacers won last night.
They did.
And they were like very pumped about it. And I mean, maybe I was wrong because I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to care about this.
I told you, Vegas, man, Vegas, and 500K. I mean,
and also it turns out just you paint the floor and you get a trophy. Like people are going to get excited. I don't know what it is, but like let's just paint the floor different. Let's get some different uniforms and, like, I don't know if we get a trophy and get a chance to go to Vegas. But it turns out they care a little bit more. And the Pacers are playing pretty good basketball. But there is a player in Indiana that I'm fascinated by. There is a player on the Minnesota Timberwolves that I am fascinated by. And we are starting to see kind of a youth movement going on in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
And kind of not necessarily a changing of the guards, but the era of Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, LeBron James, right?
Steph Curry.
Even Steph Curry to that matter. Like that era is going away. And, we had talked probably about a month ago. I think when we were doing our season preview of like, is this just all going to be foreign-born players? Like, what? The American-born players are kind of coming back.
Busy.
They're getting busy.
They're getting busy.
Because between Tyrese Halliburton, the way he has been playing, you told me, I want to say it was 3 years ago. It might have been 2 years ago. I don't remember when we had this conversation, but you said, Myers, Anthony Edwards is a dude.
He's him.
He's
him.
You might even been before he is him was a thing.
Yeah.
You were on Anthony Edwards.
I was on him. I think at that time it was I think we were having some kind of crazy conversation about like I compared him to like beast mode or something like that. It was something weird about it. But obviously, he was the number one pick of the draft. So it wasn't like that was just the greatest take in the world. But you had the LaMelo hype at the time. You had James Wiseman had just went to the Warriors. So, you knew they needed a big man to try to win. And I'm like, Anthony Edwards is going to be that man. And he's quite frankly turning out to be.
I mean, because you look at, and again, we're very, very early. And a lot of people say, like, look, we don't really start taking the NBA seriously until Christmas. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a bit of an extended. But these games do count, and you look at the teams, right? You got Minnesota with Anthony Edwards there. They're the number one team right now in the Western Conference. Oklahoma City is right behind them with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. While he's not an American-born player, he's at least Canadian-born.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll still kind of take him.
For sure.
But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander there with the Thunder. You look at kind of what the Sacramento Kings are doing. I don't know if De'Aaron Fox is exactly a youth movement, but he's kind of right in that sweet spot.
Yeah, I would give it to him. I would give him the nod more to the youth movement.
And you've got the Kings right there in the mix, and then in the Eastern Conference, obviously, look, the Celtics are a wagon. They're going to be a force, but the Orlando Magic are sitting number 2 right now in the Eastern Conference. They are 14-6. Paolo Banchero, another guy, number one pick. And again, which is why I have been saying from the summer when Dame decided to move on and the Blazers were kind of in a rebuild, like, look, Scoot Henderson needs to start and play.
Yeah.
Because you look at what Orlando did with Banchero, they're like, this team is yours.
Yeah.
Paolo.
For sure.
And you are going to play, and you're going to play a lot of minutes, and you're not going to win a lot of games, but you're going to get a lot of reps, and you're going to learn kind of the ways and the speed of an NBA basketball game. For the most part right now, it's kind of working.
It is.
Because he's having a good season. The Magic are playing pretty well. And, for a guy that, like you said, you look at Halliburton, you look at Anthony Edwards, you look at Paolo Banchero, you look at these guys.
SGA,
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you look at these young guys in the league now. Again, the old guys are probably like, hey, listen, you make your money in February and March in this league.
Yeah.
Have a good December, but it is fascinating to kind of see with. And by the way, Zion's not gone yet.
And for what it's
Zion's not gone yet.
Zion's not gone. And for what it's worth, I mentioned LaMelo in comparison to Anthony Edwards, but LaMelo's been hooping this year prior to the injury. I mean, he had like a string of like 30-plus point games that was pretty significant. I don't remember the exact number, but LaMelo is putting up numbers this year. His team's not that great, but he's putting up digits for sure.
So kind of when you look at it right now, and of like 25 and under, right? If you were to kind of talk about like investing in guys, because we know about obviously Giannis, we know about Luka, we know about, but like you see like these under 25 guys, and we've talked about how the difference in coming into the league, and some guys are taking different paths into the league now.
Yes.
Zion, Paolo, like those guys, they played at Duke, like, but like other guys are, you know, much more prepared.
Yeah,
coming in, and I think that's why you are seeing some of these guys kind of popping earlier and earlier. It's not taking 5-6 years; it's taking more like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah,
but when you look at a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, when you look like Paolo Banchero, even when you look at Anthony Edwards, Zion, for that matter, who it feels like he's been in the league for forever. He's been in the league for 3 years.
Yeah, we've just been talking about him for a lot. Yeah,
he's been in the league for like 3 years.
For sure.
Like, who of those guys are you most intrigued by?
I'm still most intrigued by Anthony Edwards. I just think there's something about him in terms of just his mentality. Obviously, all those guys are like young killers. Like they're all really great. But I think Anthony Edwards at an earlier age was more so willing to sort of step up to the plate in terms of competing against the guys that may be not quite a full generation ahead of him, but the Tatums, or, you know, he goes at Draymond all the time. Like, I feel like he just wants to play against the best at all times. And then I think he really grew over this summer with Team USA, and he mentioned it. I forget what platform he was on, but he mentioned in an interview where he was with Team USA over the summer, and Steve Kerr basically was like telling him, hey, you don't work hard enough. You should watch KD work out. You should watch Steph Curry work out. And I think at a particular point in Edwards' career, he was a little bit over the edge in terms of maybe like being a little cocky and not receiving that, which on one end can be a superpower, which I think it has been of his. But on the other end, it could be your downfall, which to an extent that could be the case as well. But I think he really took heed to what Steve Kerr told him, and he went back to his trainers and he was like, hey, I don't know what it is that we got to do to work as hard as those guys are working, but let's just figure it out and get it done. And I think you could clearly see that he's taken his off seasons a bit more serious. I mean, you even remember when he was coming into the league, he didn't even know if he wanted to play in the NBA. Like, he was just the kind of guy that knew he was ultra confident in himself, and that he had this crazy amount of talent. It's like, maybe I'll play in the NBA, but you're the number 1 overall draft pick in the league. Like, we know you want to play there, but I think now he's actually embracing who he is as a basketball player fully, and the work ethic that comes with wanting to be the absolute best in the league, and that is going to take him to an entirely different level that just his pure talent and confidence just can't.
It's funny because there's like 3 things, right? In terms of how do you build an NBA superstar? To me, there are like 3 tiers of it. One is just God-given ability.
Absolutely.
You got to have the God-given ability.
Which he's got.
He's got it. Then you mentioned the work.
Yeah.
Like the amount of work that the top-level players put in. Again, I don't know if people even understand just to be an okay NBA player, the amount of work you have to put in.
For sure.
And then the extra work. Then it's the wiring.
Yeah.
Like, nobody ever was the greatest who thought they were mediocre.
Right.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
There's not one player ever that was great, that didn't believe they were great, that didn't believe when they stepped out on the court that they were nobody else is at my level right now. Give me the basketball. You put the talent, the work, and then the wiring in, and it's like, you got something there. And it seemed like he had the wiring and he had the talent.
He didn't have the work.
And needed another voice to kind of throw in like, hey, you got to get in there and you got to work.
And I think he's got that now. And I think it's been showing with the success of him individually with the success of his team this year. And quite frankly, you do get tired of losing. Losing will help you with that, getting in these play-in predicaments and getting into these first round of the playoff predicaments and losing. Like, you'll eventually get tired of it, but also being able to have a guy like Steve Kerr, who has coached absolute champions, obviously being a 4-time champ himself, and then obviously won championships with the greatest, that a lot of people would say is the greatest, and Michael Jordan. So, like, I think Kerr got to him in a different kind of way with Team USA this summer. And now he's full-on embraced the work, and my goodness, it's going to be a scary sight for years to come.
This is the other guy I want to talk about. They mentioned on ESPN this morning. I want to bring Brendan in here as well because, Brendan, I know you we talked about this when the trade went down with Sacramento and Indiana, because I think at the time you very much wanted the Blazers to go get Domantas Sabonis.
I did.
You were all in on and you know what? Kind of right on that one.
Yeah.
Could have used that guy a couple years ago, but regardless, there were a lot of people, and I don't know how many actual, like, Sacramento Kings fans there are. I happen to know a couple, but, like, I don't know how many actual tried and true Sacramento Kings. But there were a lot of Sacramento Kings fans going, like, why are we trading away Halliburton? Like, what on earth? Now, then they got Sabonis. That worked for them.
For sure.
Halliburton's working for India. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a win-win trade, but it seems as though, Brendan, that was as much of a win. Like, you need this, we need that. Let's just swap, because the Kings are right in the mix in the Western Conference. They made the playoffs a year ago. They light the beam.
They light the beam.
The victory beam. And then, ho-hum, Tyrese Halliburton's only averaging what? He's at 27 and 12. 27 points, 12 dimes a game.
Yeah, he's a stud. I mean, you look at that, that trade, and I think you're right. It's absolutely a win-win. I mean, maybe the Kings don't love that Sabonis isn't the best defender in the world, and we kind of saw that a little bit during the postseason last year. TBD on that. We'll check in. But, Devon, going back to Sacramento and why they had to do that, was it not a Blazers situation? They had too many dudes playing guard.
Yep.
And I hate to say it, but it's like...
So wait, you can fix that?
You can. You just got to find someone else interested in your guards.
Real quick, because, again, I'm not... Brendan knows all the players because he plays fantasy in 2K. Devon, he's an actual analyst for a professional basketball team. I'm just a goofball on a microphone. So help me out. So when you have more guards, you're not required to keep drafting guards?
No.
No. Got it. Good. Got it. Good to know.
But, I'm sure in a vacuum, Devon, you could probably say, Anthony Simons and Tyrese Halliburton are in the same sphere. I think Tyrese Halliburton's obviously a better player, a little bit more versatile as, a passer rather than a scorer.
Yeah.
But, I go back to Justin, could that trade have been available to the Blazers then? Could they have traded Anthony Simons then for Domantas Sabonis? And I don't think so, because Anthony Simons hadn't popped yet. Tyrese Halliburton, they threw him in, and they're like, oh, well, this guy's going to take the ball out of De'Aaron Fox's hands. This ain't going to work.
Right.
And, knew it pretty quick.
Yeah, no, they did know it pretty quick, and I think that's been the key for him. Now he's the ball-dominant guy in Indiana, and it has absolutely worked out. I still think with the Blazers, they're a guard-heavy team in a lot of ways, but you still got a little bit more time to kind of figure that out as well, because now, as you mentioned, Simons has popped a little bit more, and I know I'm huge on Brogdon, and I have been here on this show, but Brogdon still has value in this league. I mean, and certainly. I think he's showing it with what he's been able to do with this Blazers team that's in rebuild mode, and essentially he's made them competitive in a lot of these games that he's been available for. So I don't think you hit the panic button about having too many guards right now if you're the Blazers, because you're building up Scoot. Scoot's your guy because you drafted him at number 3, and you went all in for Scoot, essentially. Dame's no longer here, obviously. So Scoot's going to be around. You got Brogdon right now who can kind of help mold Scoot and help Scoot mature and grow into the point guard that he ultimately could become. And Simons is finally hitting those years of being being what we know as a 20-plus point per game scorer on a consistent basis. And then you got a guy named Shaedon Sharpe who's having his coming out party this year. So it's not a bad situation that you have so many guys at the guard position that do have value. And eventually when you get to that point of wanting to kind of take that next step and say, all right, we're out of rebuild mode and now we're in competition mode in terms of like competing to go to the postseason, essentially. Not like contending mode, but now we want to get into, more postseason conversations and action. Now you'll have a lot of guys with value to be able to make a big move, similar to the Kings, who also won on their end, as you mentioned, and was able to get us a bonus out of the deal. And now they're a legitimate playoff team.
One more thing with that, Devon. You mentioned Brogdon's value. We've mentioned it a lot on this show, and I'll give you credit because I came in and said I think he's a guy that's kind of on the shelf as far as eventually being moved. And you're like, hey, they value him. With that, Devon, will there be a contender in 2-3 months who needs someone like Brogdon and is willing to pay an arm and a leg for him?
Very well could be.
Yeah. I think there will be.
Very well could be. I don't know. I can't pinpoint exactly who right now, but he is, because you got to think about it. Imagine being able to have him come off the bench. Like, he's playing on a team right now where you kind of need him to start. And because he's a veteran and because he's just good enough, he's a 6 man of the year guy. Like, okay, you deal with that with a team that's rebuilding. Imagine being able to trade for a guy like Brogdon and have him go back into 6-man mode and be able to produce the way that he's doing right now off of the bench. And he's been able to catch the rhythm that he's been able to this year as a starter for the Blazers. Like, I think he only gets better because he's able to get the reps that he's getting as a starter. And if he ends up getting moved to a contender later on down the line, that team is going to be a problem for a lot of people because he can help you not only compete but win games.
It's going to be fascinating to see what happens with the Blazers come trade deadline, right? What's going to happen? Like right now, again, I love the effort that they play with right now, and I like the way that this team has kind of embraced playing defense and grabbing rebounds and getting at. And sometimes the ball doesn't pop in the bucket, and they've had some injuries. But when Shaden is playing well, they're going to be able to compete. When DeAndre Ayton's playing well, they're going to be able to compete. I wonder, is it going to be sustainable? You know what I mean? Is the effort and the defense? I hope so. But losses might start piling up, and then January. Basketball season's long.
It is
long,
yeah,
and it is dark, and it is cold.
We got a lot of time, and for them, obviously, they are playing from behind a little bit because they have had so many injuries. So, you got Scoot back, you got Brogdon back, Simons will be back here in the very near future. Like, now I think we're going to have to see, like, what the identity of this team is with everybody available because, quite frankly, Brogdon kind of took over the identity of the team when Scoot went down, when Simons went down, and it's kind of worked.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. We spend so much time, because this is what we do in this business, but we spend so much time like, who's going to start? Who's going to get the minutes?
Yeah.
Who's going to be coming off the bench? And it's like 2 games in. All right, everybody's hurt, so none of that matters.
None of it matters.
Who's going to start? Whoever is healthy and can dribble a ball. Like, that'd be nice to have on the those 2 things. Like, are you healthy and can you get the ball past half court? But now we're going to get back into some decisions for Chauncey Billups with Brogdon, Scoot, Shaden, and Anthony Simons again, all healthy. We'll see. It's going to be fascinating. Here's what we got. We got one more bit of damage to do. We got the RCM mailbag.
Let's do it.
So that's going to be coming up next as we wrap up the big show here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up the big show here on a Tuesday. Devon Pouncey from the Rip City Remix. Sticking around for the RCM mailbag, random questions, any subject, any topic. Nothing is off limits, and I repeat, will not duck the tough questions. Will we have some tough questions today? We will find out right now. It is time to open up the RCM mailbag. Here we go.
It's time for the RCM mailbag. With any question, any topic, Justin can't duck the tough question. What do we have first?
All right, fellas, firing up the big mailbag today. Let's see. Let's go with... Yeah, I like this one. Yeah, always got to go to the master list, Justin. And, we had some pretty good ones yesterday with Justin declaring he would rather meet an alien than meet Bigfoot.
Yeah, because there's more of a chance.
Good stuff yesterday, but nevertheless.
There's actually more of a chance. One is definitely not real, and one might be real.
Real quick, Devon. Bigfoot, real or not real? Alien, real or not real? Go.
Ooh, I think Bigfoot is real.
There's no Bigfoot.
Oh, my man.
Bounce, there is no Bigfoot.
My man.
I think Bigfoot is out there somewhere. Be careful, man. Bigfoot is out there. He's somewhere. I don't know where.
Don't know where. No evidence whatsoever.
Bigfoot is out there.
I know.
He's got footprints around somewhere.
All right, let's go ahead and open up the real mailbag today. Justin, if you could choose, Justin and Devon, I should say, if you guys could choose, you get a choice for 24 hours. Live 200 years in the past or 200 years in the future, and why?
I don't want to speak for Devon, but I'm pretty sure he's going to go into the future.
I can speak for myself. I definitely want to go in the future because I don't want to be slaving for nobody. It is what it is. I mean,
that was not the intent of this question. I promise.
I understand.
That was not the intent.
But I mean, that's quite an easy one for me to answer as the big black guy here on the show. 200 years into the future, I think I'll be able to make a lot more decisions for myself. I think financial freedom could be a thing. I mean, I'm going future 10 times out of 10, buddy.
It's going to be a tough one for me to live down.
No, Brendan, that was perfect. It was 100%.
It was great. It was great.
It was great.
An easy answer for me.
Because just like, you said it, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, you know. I don't really have a good answer for you guys on that one. Appreciate you being good sports.
We do this, man. We do this. I'm a good sport all the way.
Because it is a thing, and I can't remember. I think it might have been Louis C.K. when we liked him, but not when we now don't like him. But I think there was and I'm not going to do the bit justice, but it was like, the whole idea of like time travel, like going back in the past, is like, it's such a white guy thing to do.
For sure.
Like only white guys want to go to the past.
For sure. Give me the future, bud.
It is. All right, let's get to another mailbag, and hopefully this one won't be quite as in-depth. Would you rather be obscenely wealthy and unhealthy?
Oh.
Or perfect health and penniless?
Oh, give me fat and...
Yeah, same.
Give me fat and sick
too.
and happy and rich, because I'm sure at some point, right now, this is not within the spirit of the question, right? Because I would be like, well, if you get rich enough, medicine will take care of whatever's...
Hey, there's
It'll help.
It's, I hate to say it, but I'm just going to come up, fellas. There's a guy who invented a half-bitten iPhone that money didn't save him. There was the owner of this former team. Money didn't save him. Sometimes money's not enough, man.
Yeah, but at the same time, we all got to go at some point, and we don't know when. So with that being said, give me the money, generational wealth.
Give me the money.
Another reason why I want to be 200 years in the future.
Fair.
I got a better chance of generational wealth and all the things now than otherwise. So, yeah, give me the money. I'll take the money.
Okay, another one. We'll close this one out, fellas.
Yeah.
This one should be fun. Would you rather never get angry, never have the angry emotion, or never be envious?
I would much rather never be envious.
Yeah, same.
Envy, like that eats me up inside. I
think
will
it
fully
eats up a lot of
admit that
people.
I get jealous and envious, mostly about professional stuff, and I try not to. It's like, why does that guy have that? But yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Could you
same way.
imagine-
Sometimes being angry feels good.
That's what I'm just
It
saying.
does.
Could you imagine?
Sometimes it feels good.
It does. Let it out, man.
Being envious never feels good.
No, it doesn't.
No, it's just
So
bad. Like,
it's a bad feeling. Through
so
and
could
through.
you imagine me with just anger bottled up and like it's gonna have to escape at somehow, some way,
yeah.
right? I don't know how you do. Like at some point, maybe the anger doesn't come out, but maybe some physical violence. But yeah, I would rather not be envious.
Yeah. I agree. 100%.
There are some people in the world, like, I don't know if you know people like that who are just like, I don't care, whatever. And I'm like, how? How do you not care? I don't know. But tip of the cap to you, I'm envious of that. As I'm envious of people who don't have the envy. All right, that's going to do it. Well, all-time great mailbag.
Yes, indeed.
All-time great mailbag. And a big thanks to Devon Pouncey. Thanks to super producer Brendan. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Tuesday. We're back at it tomorrow morning here on 620 Rip City Radio.